So today I'm sharing with you some super easy weekend meal prep. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to another meal prep video. My name is Kira if you are new, and although these videos do take a lot of work, it's a lot of voiceover and editing, these are some of my favorite videos to share just because I like sharing the little tips and tricks that may make your weeks go along easier. I feel like meal prep really does set anybody up for success, whether you're a single person, a couple, a small family, a large family, any way to make things easier for work nights or nights where you're just running around, or even if you're home all day but you don't want to spend the day in the kitchen. Sometimes just having things prepped and ready to go just makes for a more enjoyable day. I feel for me, it stops me from picking on the things that I shouldn't. If I have things prepped and ready to go that are tangible for me to grab, that's what I'm going to grab before anything else. So today I have tons of different kinds of meal prep to share with you, and we're actually going to start off with produce. So cleaning my produce is definitely priority. I have strawberries and raspberries here. I have some black grapes. I have some cherub tomatoes. I have some blackberries and some blueberries. And like I said, cleaning my produce is definitely one of my most important weekly steps because I always have some kind of produce to be cleaned. And today we're going to try something new. It's by Veggie Aqua. It's a fruit and veggie wash. So I want to thank them for sponsoring today's video. But I was thoroughly impressed when they contacted me because all you do is spray your fruits and vegetables down thoroughly and let it sit for 1 minute, and then you wash it off. And so we're going to use my salad spinner after we wash it to put it in there and spin it dry, and then we'll let it air dry a little bit, and then we'll package it and put it away. But I am super curious to get into this veggie wash because I've noticed over the last few months of me doing any kind of meal prep when it comes to fruits and vegetables that my way of doing it was just not working anymore. I don't know what changed or what was different, but I've mentioned it in the past in a few videos. I've mentioned it in a few meal prep videos that my standard method for cleaning was just not working. So I was always told to clean with vinegar, cold water and vinegar. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I was not doing that to my fruits and vegetables prior to YouTube. It was only after watching all these other YouTube mommies that were saying like, hey, you really need to wash your fruits and vegetables this way, that I learned, again, all those little tips and tricks. And so I started doing what everybody told me. And for hard skin things like the tomatoes that we just did, maybe for something like grapes and blueberries, the method with the vinegar wasn't so bad. But when you do something that is porous, like raspberries, blackberries, strawberries, I found that even just running it with cold water, it just wasn't really getting clean enough, or the vinegar was just breaking it down and then it would turn to mush. So I really just didn't know what I was doing wrong, but none of the things I was doing was working. So when Veggie Aqua reached out to me, I said, you know what? I'm super curious to try a veggie wash. I had it on my list of something to pick up the next time I saw one out in a retail store because I was going to try a veggie wash as opposed to, like I said, what I had been doing. And you guys, this was as simple as pie, okay? All you're going to do is put your fruit or vegetable into a bowl, and you're going to thoroughly spray it down with your Veggie Aqua spray. I gave mine a good shake and then made sure to spray the other side. This way, everything was coated with their solution on the whole thing. And then all you do is let it sit for a minute. I don't know. I had to let it sit for a little longer than that, but then I washed it off. And then once I gave it a good wash and then I used my salad spinner, I was extremely impressed, especially when it came to the grapes. It took all the wax off. I mean, I even share with you guys in a few clips how dirty the water is. Like, it's just, it literally gets everything so clean. I did not taste it. It is completely odorless and tasteless. Now, the ingredients are 99.7% water, and then it's 0.3% of this sodium silicate. But where the key is that this is a patent iodized water. So basically what it does is that it attracts all of the dirt like a magnet. And then when you rinse it off, it all just washes off down the drain. And I definitely was able to see that because it was literally so easy to make everything come clean with just a spritz of this stuff and letting it soak for a minute's time. I was able to get extremely clean and fresh fruits and vegetables. Now, you also need to have good containers. I love the Rubbermaid Brilliance containers. They snap really good and they keep all of the air out. But the other key is to keep everything dry. So you'll notice I layer all of my fruits and vegetables with a paper towel on the bottom, and then I put my fruits and vegetables on top, and then I layer with paper towel again on top of that. And that really just kind of keeps everything dry. But I will make sure to link Veggie Aqua down below for you guys. It's sold right on Amazon. It is extremely cost effective. It was 3 bottles for $12. So I don't even think that is bad, especially since this stuff will last me a really, really long time. But I think you guys are really going to enjoy it because I know for me, it made cleaning my produce this time go with ease. So while we're on the topic of produce, I will share with you some produce that had started to see some better days and I needed to do something with it. So I bought a big container of basil from Trader Joe's, and I did make some caprese, but I really needed to use up what was left because it was a whole big container and it wasn't a whole lot that I used just for the caprese salad. So I decided to make some pesto, and I found an interesting recipe that I wanted to share because it's a pine nut free recipe. So, and sometimes you need to use nutritional yeast, and I found a way around that also. So I thought this was a pretty interesting recipe to share. So I have some salt and pepper, olive oil, and lemon juice. I have the basil. You can leave the stems on. I have a whole big chunk of garlic, probably like 5 or 6 cloves. I have a 1/3 cup of Parmesan cheese and then a 1/3 cup of almonds. So now in a food processor, I added our basil, our almonds, our Parmesan cheese. I added that garlic, 2 tablespoons of lemon, a little bit of salt, and a little bit of pepper. I'll make sure to link the recipe that I found on Pinterest down below in the description box. But then I just gave it a good pulverize. I did come back with a spatula and scrape the sides, and then I pulverized again as I was adding olive oil. You're just going to add olive oil until it gets to that creamy texture, and then that was it, you guys. It tasted so good, and you couldn't tell that I didn't use pine nuts. It still had like that nutty flavor from the almonds, and just basil and garlic and stuff is very strong flavors, so sometimes it's really hard for any other flavors to come through. So I thought this was perfect, and you guys are actually going to see this in a future video because I'm sharing a pesto chicken recipe along with a French onion pork chops and a chocolate chip croissant bake. So lots coming up for you guys, but this is what else I did. So I made that basil pesto. I also washed with that veggie wash some carrots, and I put it in a container. They came out awesome. These carrots were filthy, and that veggie wash took everything off. I had some green onions that were starting to go, so I went ahead and washed those up and cut them up, and I put them, green onions most of all, with that paper towel underneath because they are very absorbent and they will get like liquidy, but if you put that paper towel underneath, it sucks everything out. I had 2 zucchinis that I needed to use, so I roasted them up, and I'm using those for eggs this week. We also had a sharp cheddar, a mild cheddar, and a Colby Jack that I got at Costco. So while we had the food processor out, we went ahead and food processed all of them, and so we have 1 bag of each in the refrigerator right now, and then 1 bag of each frozen. And then that night I also made a taco soup, and this was what was left over, which I'm going to go ahead and freeze so that we could use that taco soup for a later date. But this was a extremely productive day because we had done all of that produce prior and then all of this. And so now here we are on day 2, and my plan was to make Mason some granola bars. So So this is the State Fair Honey Crisp Apple Pie Granola. I think I got this at Costco. It's like all the things: vegan, gluten-free, non-GMO, like dairy-free, like you name it, everything under the sun this is. So I loved that it was like extremely healthy and that we can kind of control some of the things that we were going to put in it. So I have some pure vanilla here. I have some organic unfiltered honey. I have some salted butter. I have Lily's baking chips, and it's a new flavor. It's the butterscotch flavor. The Lily's chips are less sugar, like there's no additional sugar added. I have some Ghirardelli white chocolate that we're just going to use for drizzling up top. And then I have some brown sugar. It's actually light brown sugar, and then I had some dark brown sugar and I poured it on top to conserve space. So if it looks weird, it's just because it's light and brown sugar together. But anyways, you guys, we're going to go ahead and make our own granola bars. And these were actually easier than I thought. So right now we're just going to create a sticky base, something that's going to hold all that granola together. So once you add butter and sugar, you're almost creating like a caramel. So I added 4 tablespoons of butter to a really hot saucepan and I let it get all melty. And then I went ahead and put in a half a cup of brown sugar. Again, I'll make sure to link any recipes that kind of gave me some inspiration. Then I added in the honey, and once it was all bubbly and sticky, I just pulled it from the heat. And once all the bubbles settled, then I added in 2 cups of granola. I think I ended up going a little heavier. I think the recipe called for 2, but I ended up doing more like 3, and I still had a ton in this bag. So I'll be able to do this a ton of times. But once I thoroughly mixed all of that together, then I added in some butterscotch chips, and then I put it in a 9x9 with parchment paper underneath so I can use it to easily lift out later. The key really is to push this as far into all of your corners and everything so that's perfectly packed and even. So I even have a little bowl of water here because your hands will stick to it because it's so sticky, but you really want to use your hands to kind of get down in there, push all into the corners and make it completely flat. So I picked it up, put it in the refrigerator for 2 hours, and once it was set, I just came back and cut it into bar shape. So I did end up getting a fair amount of bars. I think I got 10 out of what I did. I was hoping to get 12, but 10 was still good. Some of them were a little bigger than I had planned, and they were definitely thick, but I think if I would have done a 9x13, they would have been too thin. But once I cut them, I just used a double boiler. So once the bottom pot was boiling with water, then I stick a saucepan on top and I threw some of the Ghirardelli white baking chips into that. I gave it a good stir, and then once it was melted, then I just used that, like I said, for a drizzling factor, and I just drizzled over the top. I know like usually the kids' granola bars always have like a little drizzle of chocolate, and then I did pick it right back up in that parchment paper and stick it back in the refrigerator so that chocolate would set. And then once that was set, I just separated them, and then I put them in little snack bags. I did feel like they would be better off in the refrigerator. I didn't want them to, get moldy in the regular like snack bin. So I did put them in the refrigerator, but that just helped them, just to kind of stay. And then we've been eating on them all week and they're so delicious. And I even have strawberry shortcake of that State Fair granola that I still have in a jar. And now I want to make them with that because I feel like the strawberry shortcake will be even better. I love apple anything, but I love strawberry shortcake. So I think that'll be really good. So now we're on to the next set of meal prep, and that is making bacon and hard-boiled eggs. These are another like staple for me. I usually have bacon that's always cooked in some kind of container because we use them for the tops of sandwiches. We crumple them in salads. So I did take a pound of bacon on 350 degrees on a sheet pan and stick that in the oven. And then now I'm getting some hard-boiled eggs ready. And I'm making hard-boiled eggs. And honestly, you guys, I used to use my Instant Pot, but they're just not coming out the way that I want them to be. And these ended up coming out perfect. So I waited for the water to boil, and then I put a dozen eggs in there. I started throwing them in, and I noticed I was cracking them, so I did use a spoon to lower them in there. But then once I let them cook for 15 minutes and then I rinsed everything off, they came out to be the most perfect eggs. So while they were cooling, my bacon was done. I transferred them to a plate with paper towel to drip dry, and you can see that they were still cooling there. And then later on, here they are, perfectly peeled, all dozen in a container, and then my bacon all broken up in a container. And we ate on those eggs. I put some in my snack boxes, like Mason's taking them for lunch. Like, we just love them. But now something else that like we have been loving, this is my second time making them, and I can see myself making them quite often, is banana chocolate chip cookies. And you guys, this is like a great way if you are vegan to make something, because there's literally no dairy in here. Like, you don't need eggs, you don't need oil. Like, the health factor here, you really could use like coconut flour and the Lincanto brown sugar, and you can make these like literally as healthy as possible. So I have baking soda here. We need 4 tablespoons of butter. We're going to need 1.5 cups of flour. We need some white sugar and brown sugar, 2 bananas, and then some kind of chocolate chips. Like, that literally is it. So most of us have all of these ingredients like in our house right now, and I get bored of making banana muffins every time I have overripe bananas. So I thought this was just a great way to use them up instead of muffins. So we're going to smush our ripe bananas as, you know, smushy as we can on a plate, and then we're going to go ahead and add them to a bowl, and we're going to mix that now with our sugars. So I have our brown sugar and our white sugar, and we're going to go ahead and mix those together and incorporate that. And you could see that just the banana enough is a really wet component. So like, look how liquidy that is just from using the sugar. And then our 4 tablespoons of butter we melted. So I put the melted butter in there, and then the teaspoon of the baking soda, and then now we're going to add in our flour. So in goes the 1.5 cups, and then you're supposed to add in 3/4 cups of chocolate chips. And so that's it. I used the Lily salted caramel ones. I thought that would be a great flavor with the banana, and then you mix it up. Literally, that's it. Like, the simplest of ingredients. I feel like that's literally the simplest recipe I've ever used to make a chocolate chip cookie. And then that was it. Like, once you're done, you put it on a tray, and the tray goes in the oven for 12 to 15 minutes, depending on how hot your oven cooks. And they were great. Like, we just love them. They're very, very moist. The banana makes them super, super moist. So after they cooled, like, they stayed fluffy. I was so surprised like that they were so fluffy without a ton of ingredients, but we just thought that they came out so, so good. And like I said, I can see us adding them to our rotation like time and time again. Something else that we add to our rotation often is doing rotisserie chicken. I love my rotisserie oven. I have a Cosori oven. It is linked in my Amazon store. Anything I've used that you might be interested in, that you've seen, everything down to knives, the type of pans that I use, anything, they're all linked in my Amazon store below. But this Cosori oven is also a rotisserie, and I just love that I can do this for so much cheaper and with any toppings and whatever it is that they want. Like, I love the everything but the leftover seasoning from Trader Joe's to add on things like this chicken. And I've gotten really, really good at learning to tie the chicken up so that the pieces don't flop around. Like, if you don't secure the wings and the legs really, really good when it's going around the rotisserie, like, it'll flop around. So I learned how to tie it really well. I also learned while doing 50 Shades of Chicken. So if you guys are fairly new, it's been a while since we've done an episode, but there was a cookbook called 50 Shades of Chicken with 50 different chicken recipes, and it was a parody cookbook to the actual 50 Shades trilogy. And my husband and I had a lot of fun sharing them, but I think after my recent like run-in with E.L. James, I think I may lay off of doing anything that is a parody, because I don't want to get any kind of copyright issues again. That cookbook, they must have permission to do that, because it is written like her. It is an actual parody. There's references to her her book. So I'm sure like they have permission, but I have permission right now to use the number. And unfortunately that book does not have the number. So I'll attach the playlist if you guys want to see like what my husband and I were up to for a while, but I don't know if we'll be able to continue. But once I had her all tied up, I put her on the rotisserie rod and I covered her with the everything but the leftover seasoning. And then I put her in for 1 hour, 15 minutes on 400 degrees. And then she just sits there and she spins and she cooks until she is absolutely beautiful. And I love doing this because I'm the kind of person that uses every part of this. So if this was a night we were having dinner, then we would like all the drippings on the bottom turn into gravy. We would slice the chicken. Then whatever we didn't eat would be chicken salad. And then whatever we didn't eat, use bones wise, gets boiled and used for broth. So that chicken has to cool. And now we're on to snack boxes. So I have those little plastic containers and some silicone liners. I have some Triscuits. I have one of those granola bars because I'm going to put some of that in my snack boxes. We're going to make 4 of them. I have these cinnamon churro chips. They're the Siete brand. Oh my goodness, they're so amazing. I have the French fried onions and some nuts. I have salami here. I have pepperoni. There's black grapes down there. I have the hard-boiled eggs. I have the Pomodoro stuffed peppers with cream cheese and jalapenos. I have a cucumber, some cottage cheese, some cream cheese. I have a peach cup, some raspberries, and some tomatoes. And these are all the things we're going to use again in those Rubbermaid Brilliance containers to make the snack boxes that I make because I love them. Again, I mentioned to you guys earlier that if I have the right things to grab, then that's what I will grab. So today, this is what I ate. Like instead of grabbing something crappy, I ate one of these boxes. And I just think that they are so helpful and I love the variety. Like, so I did 2 with Triscuits and then half a granola bar. And then you'll see I put the little silicone liner in it and then I filled it with nuts. And so like right then and there, that was like a large variety right there. And then I did 2 of them with those cinnamon churro chips. You guys, they're so good. They're made with like avocado oil. They're also like vegan and everything. So yummy. And then I did 2 blue silicone liners with more nuts. And then the first 2, I went back and added some of those Pomodoro peppers with the cream cheese inside and the jalapenos. Oh my gosh, they're so good. And then I also added some pepperoni to that box. And then to the other ones, I did some salami slices. So I did salami with a smear of cream cheese and a little sprinkle of those French fried onions. So amazing, you guys. And 4 is like more than enough because this is usually something I'm using as a lunch. So 4 of those plus like the nuts and all the other things that you're putting inside of there is just perfect. And then I put those little plastic cups inside because you'll see what we're going to add to those. So the 2 boxes that had pepperoni each got a hard-boiled egg, and then the other ones instead of hard-boiled eggs got some black grapes. And then now I'm taking the cottage cheese and adding it to those little cups. And so 2 of them with the ones with the grapes are just getting raspberries because they're not as sweet. So it's a little tart and at least it helps to be like offsetting. And then the other ones are getting those peach cups. I split a peach cup, which is perfect because it has like a little bit of the heavy syrup. So I kind of drizzled that over the cottage cheese, which was so yummy. And then I cut up a cucumber, and that one also got cucumber since it didn't get grapes. And I put a little bit of the chili lime from Trader Joe's, which gives, it's almost like tahini, so it's so yummy. And then I put some cherry tomatoes in each one. I really love cherry tomatoes, so it was just a great compliment to add on top of each. But you guys, that's like the perfect lunch. It's got your sweet and your savory and your protein and your filling and your everything. Like, take the time and make some snack boxes. You don't even have to go crazy. You just can add some meat and cheese. Like you can see, I really didn't add any cheese because I'm not one for cold cheese. Like you can just tweak it. You can do more veggies or you can do more fruit. Like you can do really whatever you want. These things are so versatile, but they're really key to helping me like stay accountable for what I'm eating. Same thing with this chicken, you guys. Sometimes I'll just grab a handful of chicken when I'm hungry, like, and just the protein alone helps fight my hunger. And then I'm not hungry. I've eaten something of value, and you can't be having rotisserie chicken in your refrigerator all the time. So you'll see here that I'm just going to go ahead now and cut it up. So I actually cut the wings and the legs right off, and I leave them because some of us like wings and legs, or I'll just use that meat because I like a mixture of dark and light meat when I'm doing like chicken salad or something. And I separate all of it, and I end up putting it in a Tupperware. This way we can go ahead and use it throughout the week for really whatever it is that suits us. Like, again, some of us just want to pick on some chicken. Like, sometimes I'll do a chicken sandwich. And for portion control, I'll use those little King's Hawaiian rolls. So I'll do like a little smear of mayo and then a little bit of some of this rotisserie chicken. And it's just enough to fill me. Like 2 of those with some chicken and mayo is like just enough to fill me that I'm no longer hungry, and I'm not going to grab anything crappy, but I still had something substantial like chicken. And so like I said, I like having this on hand. I use it for quesadillas and everything, but I think my favorite thing is the broth, because I'm taking these 2 chickens together. It was 2 chickens in a package from Costco for $9. So this was one of them. So $4.50. Sometimes you can get a rotisserie chicken for $5 and you don't have to cook it, right? But I love the fact that like I did this at home. I seasoned it the way I wanted to. And then whatever meat and bones I had left over, I threw in with my celery ends and my onion ends, and I made broth, which is perfect. Now, look how thick and yellow and beautiful that broth is. Like, you're not even buying better broth in the store. Like, it's just so yummy. But to be honest, you guys, I was making my mock Thanksgiving dinner, and this is my stuffing recipe, which is literally my most popular recipe video on my channel. I'll link it if you guys want a really good sausage stuffing recipe, because it's freaking phenomenal. But I used chicken broth for the recipe. So instead of pulling a container while I was already food prepping, I just took the hot, fresh, delicious broth that I just made and I mixed it into the stuffing, and it was literally perfect. Like, I didn't have to defrost anything. I didn't have to open a container from the pantry. Like, what better than to use like fresh broth that you just made fresh off the stove in your recipe? And everybody was like fighting over the stuffing. They all love it. Top it with a little bit of gravy, and you know, everybody is happy. But you really can't beat a chicken that you spent $4.50 on that you made into a rotisserie chicken in your own kitchen, and then you used all the meat for separate recipes and then turned around and used the carcass for broth. Like, it's just endless what we turned that $4 into. But all right, you guys, that was it for another meal prep video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, make sure to give it a huge thumbs up. Make sure you check the description box for all of those links, like to Veggie Aqua. Thank you again to them for sponsoring today's video. Make sure you check out my Amazon store so you can see if anything that you were interested in, like even down to my food processor. Everything is linked in that description box. That 50 Shades of Chicken cookbook is listed there. So if you guys want to purchase it and try those recipes out on your own, you should. Make sure you check out that playlist. Daryl and I had so much fun. I wish we could still continue to share them, but I appreciate you guys so much for tuning into another video. Subscribe if you are new. I love you guys all so much, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, you guys.